Welcome to our series, Moving America Forward. Each week we'll be focusing on America's entrepreneurs as they take us to new roads, new opportunities, new ways to fill the gaps left by today's failing companies. Our series will be looking at that and a lot more. So come with me and watch as the entrepreneurs of our nation move into the future.
And I'm Doug Llewellyn here in our Los Angeles studios with our guest today, who is Garrett Sutton. It's a name you may know. He is a highly acclaimed author. He is an attorney at law. He's the founder of the Sutton Law Center in Reno, Nevada. He is best known, perhaps, for writing books that really are about the law for the layman, and we'll be explaining that as we go along today. Garrett, nice to have you with us.
Doug, it's a pleasure to be here.
Listen, before we get into this interview, I'm really excited to chat with you because your books are fascinating, and I think our viewers are going to find them just as fascinating as I have. But first off, a little while ago, you had a chance to answer some questions from William Shatner. Let's take a look at a brief portion of that now and see how it went, okay?
Great.
Let's watch.
I know that being successful in business today is not easy. Why don't you briefly describe what you do and what sets you apart from others in your field? And do you feel your business is helping to move America forward?
Mr. Shatner, owning your own business has always been part of the American dream. But most business owners don't have the expertise to properly determine how and where that business should be set up. What we do is provide a service run by lawyers and legal specialists that sets up the right entity for the business owner and maintains it for years to come. What separates us from other online legal services is that we consult with our customers, creating a customized entity structure for their specific situation. That, Mr. Shatner, is how we are helping to move America forward.
You know, that's really fascinating what you had to say to William Shatner. I'm fascinated by the kind of services that you offer because it's pretty broad. To explain a little bit about what Sutton Law Center offers.
Well, Doug, what we do is we work with entrepreneurs and real estate investors to determine how best to protect their assets. We live in a very litigious society. There are lawsuits all the time, and you need to be protected. And there are a couple ways to do it, and we tailor a asset protection solution for each client. So we'll set up the entity, be it a corporation or an LLC, and then importantly, we'll maintain it into the future. Because if you don't follow the corporate formalities, you can lose your protection.
What would you say are some of the biggest, most common mistakes that entrepreneurs and new business people make?
A big mistake, Doug, is that they don't set up an entity at all. They do business in their individual name as a sole proprietor, right, and all of their assets are exposed, not only their business assets, but all of their personal assets. Then some people will go online and think they can do it themselves, and what we find is people will put real estate into a C Corp, which is a double tax entity, and that is a really bad way to hold real estate because you're going to be paying a huge amount in taxes. So by just making the wrong simple choice of a C Corp to hold real estate, you can have a really drastic situation on your hands.
So when you talk about the wrong choice, what are the choices? There's a C Corp, there's an S Corp, or there's an LLC. Are those the major ones?
And a limited partnership. Some people do LPs as well. But okay, LLCs right now, Doug, are the #1 entity that people form for the asset protection benefits.
You know, you have a fascinating book here, and this really fits into what we're talking about. I'd like you to get a close-up shot of this. This is all about how to form your own corporation.
Right.
And that's one of the things that you do, how to start it yourself. Companies come to you, or individuals, whatever, come to you, and you take them through it.
We do.
Piece to piece. And the book really tells you how.
The book tells you how. At the end of the book, you may say, I need an LLC. That's what we can help you form.
Right. Is an LLC better than a corporation?
For asset protection, it is. In some states, the LLC is weak, California, New York, and Georgia. But in other states, Nevada and Wyoming, the LLC is very strong in terms of asset protection.
You know, you use that term asset protection right and left. A lot of people may not really grasp what you really mean by that. What are you talking about?
Good question. I'm talking about setting up entities to protect your personal assets from attack. That's what asset protection is, structuring your affairs so that not all of your personal assets are at risk to a claim from a someone suing you.
You say a protection from attack. What do you mean by that?
Well, attack could be someone suing you in your business. It could be a tenant suing you over
In other words,
your
they're
real
suing
estate.
you in your business, and your home becomes
unprotected.
unprotected.
Right.
They could
reach
take over
the
your
equity.
home.
They could reach the equity in your home.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it's properly formed, an LLC or a corporation too can protect that.
Correct.
It's all on how it's set up.
Correct.
And that's what
And
you were explaining to do.
And you need to do this at the start. You can't do it once you've been sued, right? You can't put the seatbelt on after the car wreck.
Right.
You need to set these things up right as you get into business, right as you buy that first investment real estate.
You know, even though you've written a book on how to start your corporation, you really do advise someone legally should be involved.
I do.
Like yourself.
I do.
An attorney who knows the ins and outs of doing this.
Right. There are a couple pitfalls that you have to look out for, and an attorney can help you through that.
What's interesting also is it doesn't really matter where you live. There are some, I mean, you may live in Florida, you may live in Kentucky,
Right.
but there are some states that are better than others to form a corporation and have it headquartered there, right?
That is absolutely correct. Wyoming and Nevada, and to some extent Delaware,
Right.
have made their laws the best in the country for asset protection purposes.
That's really interesting. But if somebody's, let's say they're in Kentucky, how can they form a corporation in Delaware if they're not there?
Well, they form in Delaware, and then they qualify to do business in Kentucky. So you can bring a Delaware, Nevada, or Wyoming entity into Kentucky to do business.
This is something that you do.
All the
Explain to me
time.
the services. If I were to call you up and say, look, I'm forming a corporation, will you hold my hand and take me through it and guide me? You will do that.
If you call Corporate Direct or Sutton Law Center, we have a free 15-minute consultation with an incorporating specialist. We will talk about your situation. If you need more legal advice, you can get on the phone with me, and I'll, in half an hour, we can come up with a structure for your specific situation.
And what's interesting, you're in Reno, Nevada.
Right.
Which is, and you told me you moved there because you fell in love with Lake Tahoe and that area in the mountains.
Right.
And you thought it'd be a great place to live.
I did.
And you
it's
were in
also
Washington, D.C., and then moved to Reno. And look at you, you're happy as could be.
And Nevada's a great place to set up a company. So
Right.
it worked out great. I like Lake Tahoe, and I like helping people protect their assets.
And your company helps clients all over the country.
Yes. In fact, we have foreign investors that are investing in the United States that we help as well.
You know what else I found interesting is that there are certain things you must do that are mandatory if you have a corporation. You have to file minutes, for meetings. You have to have annual meetings and keep accurate records of that. You will actually do that for a corporation.
We do.
Because a lot of people don't.
Exactly. Doug, we give them a book showing them how to do it, and they never
still
do it.
don't.
They still don't do it. So we will prepare the minutes for you. We will be your resident agent. Our job is to make sure that you're compliant and protected into the future. So we don't just set up the entity. We'll help you from year 1 into year 10 and beyond to maintain your protection.
What happens if a company doesn't do that?
Well, they can pierce the corporate veil,
Yeah.
meaning they
If
can
they
go
get sued.
if they get sued and the corporation has no money, but it hasn't followed the corporate formalities.
Right.
They can go through the corporation and reach the individual's assets. And what's interesting is in 50% of all cases, the corporate veil is pierced. So people aren't following the corporate formalities. We help people do that.
Compare an LLC to a corporation. What's the big difference?
The big difference is the charging order protection of an LLC provides better asset protection than a corporation does. So that's why so many LLCs are being formed today. Nevada is the only state that has the charging order protection for corporate shares. So if you have to have a corporation, Nevada is the place to do it.
Are there drawbacks to an LLC?
There are some minor drawbacks. They're a fairly new entity, so
Right.
there's not a lot of case law on them, but the cases are starting to come out, and that used to be a drawback, but it's not much of one anymore.
Well, you've written many books, 6 books in all, right?
6 books in the
So
Rich
far?
Dad Advisor series,
Okay.
right?
This is another one. This is called Loopholes in Real Estate.
Right.
Now, this all focuses really on the real estate industry, people who sell real estate, right?
It focuses for real estate investors on how to hold title to real estate. Some of the tax strategies, the legal strategies for protecting your real estate.
It's a pretty thick book. but it's very common. And you write this for the layman who really doesn't know law.
I tell stories, Doug. The best way to explain legal principles is to tell case studies and stories. So
Right.
this is all stories that help people understand the concepts.
And for any businessman, the worst thing to have would be a nasty client, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter what industry, you don't want a nasty client. So you've written a book about the toxic client, right? What define this for me?
Well, as a lawyer, I hear all the worst things about what clients go through, and it led me to write this book because so many of my clients have dealt with problem customers. And you need to be aware, especially as you get started in business, that not every client is a good client. And so this book deals with the stories that I've heard, I've experienced personally.
Give me an example of one.
An example would be a client that is just opened up his business. He's anxious for business, and someone comes in and wants him to do 10 hours worth of work. And all of a sudden that 10 hours is 20 hours and 30 hours, but they expect to be paid, they expect to pay for the 10
10-hour
hours.
rate,
Right. So at the start, you have to be able to draw lines so that people don't take advantage of you. Another example is people who ask for proposals and meetings, and they're milking you for information, but never intend to pay you. So we also deal with mental health issues, with alcohol issues. There are just a lot of problematic people out there that you need to be aware of.
This is a superb series of books that Garrett has written, and I'd point out that in one of these books, in fact, in a couple of the books, Loopholes of Real Estate and Start Your Own Corporation Forward has been written by Robert Kiyosaki.
Right.
He's a big name in the field.
He's a big name in the financial education field. Great guy. He wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the best-selling financial book of all time. And so I was lucky enough to become associated with the Rich Dad Advisor series through Robert Kiyosaki.
Where are the books available?
They're on Amazon, they're at Barnes & Noble, they're readily available, they're on audiobooks.
All they have to do is look up your name, really, on the internet. Go to Google and they'll find the books. How do people get in touch with you?
The best way, Doug, is with corporatedirect.com or sutlaw.com. But corporatedirect.com is our corporate formation firm, and it does everything for people.
This has been fascinating. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doug.
Now it's my honor to give this prestigious award to Garrett Sutton, the president of Corporate Direct, Inc. and the Sutton Law Center in Reno, Nevada, for the outstanding work his firm is doing to help keep moving America forward. Garrett, it's a pleasure to give this to you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Doug. I greatly appreciate this. It takes a lot of people to keep moving America forward, and I'm honored to receive this, and I'm really honored to be on your show as well. Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
That's it for another edition of Moving America Forward. I'm Bert Tenzer. Join us again as we continue to bring you the entrepreneurs who move America forward.
I'm William Shatner, and for all of us at Moving America Forward, thanks for watching.